Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, July the 9th. And welcome to our commentary. I have a post over at the American Thinker today about soccer or the World Cup. And I got a lot of responses to it. So I'm happy for that. If you commented on it, I appreciate it. And I think most people understood what I was trying to say. In other words, I wasn't being critical of soccer by no means. I respect the sport and I respect the athletes. And I know it's very popular. Frankly, in the entire world, it's probably the number one sport in the world. So I respect that. I respect the athletes. And I tell you who I really respect is the referee who's running like 90 minutes back and forth. And, he's got to be back and forth and, he doesn't get a break at all. I mean, it's not like, the players can slow down as part of the game, but not the referee. He's got to be watching where the ball is. So I respect that a lot. And the players have great skill. My whole point of the post is, number one, I didn't grow up watching soccer, so I don't have that passion that somebody in Brazil has, or somebody in Spain or Germany. They grew up playing it. I mean, if you're from Brazil, that's your number one passion, soccer, or Germany or France or whatever. So obviously I don't have that because I grew up playing baseball and watching baseball. And then when we got to the United States, we became huge fans of what they call American football, or the NFL. So I grew up with that. And that's where my passion is. It's not with soccer. So I'm glad that most of my readers understood what I was saying in that respect. Now, I do think, though, that game has to be more fan friendly. And I made a suggestion in my post that what the game needs to do is to, for example, let people know how much time there's left. I know they put a little screen there saying extra time and all of that, but I think it would make a lot more sense for me as a fan if there was coordination between the referee, and he has the official clock, and maybe a clock on the screen or at the stadium, scoreboard or whatever, so that everybody knows how much time there is. And you don't have to sit there like happened with I think the Mexico England game, where they said 7 minutes and suddenly they're still playing and it's 11 minutes. And I'm saying, wait a minute, I thought it was 7. Well, what happens, of course, is that the referee gives them extra time if there are significant delays. But it would be nice if we knew that. It would be nice if that information was on the screen. And today's technology allows you to do that. I mean, that's what they do in the NFL. You always know in the NFL how many minutes, how many seconds you have left. You know that. It's right there on the screen, because the clock that you're watching on the screen or at the stadium is the official clock that the referee has. So that, I think, is my biggest recommendation to FIFA. And again, it doesn't take a lot. They've got the technology to do it because they do it in the NFL. They do it in the NBA. They do it in hockey, 3 of the sports that have a clock. So anyway, that would be my suggestion to make it more fan-friendly in that sense. Okay? But not a criticism. I'm just simply saying that's what I think they ought to do to at least make it more interesting for someone like me who's learning about the game. But overall, I admire the players. I admire the game. The fans are very passionate. Obviously, we're going to miss the fact that the United States is out, or we're going to miss the U.S. team, I should say. But, it's a tough soccer at this level is very, very tough. So I think the United States should be proud of itself and keep working at it. Maybe one of these years they'll actually break through. Well, there's obviously something going on with Iran. President Trump has decided to drop bombs again. Look, I've admired the way President Trump has handled this. We started out with heavy attacks, and then we've been negotiating, and he's allowing negotiations to take place. But apparently he's reached the point, a lot of people, I think, thought this was going to happen. He's reached the point where he doesn't think the Iranians are serious. Now, my sense, this is strictly my sense, I don't have any inside information, but my sense is that we are negotiating with some people who want to negotiate, but there's no way they can control somebody who attacks, a ship in the strait or somewhere else. Because in essence, you have all these different people running the country right now. Now, the good news about that is that eventually these people are going to have a fight with each other, and hopefully the better guys prevail. But the reality is that it makes negotiations impossible, as President Trump is finding out. So I agree that we should go back militarily and bomb them as much as we can. And if they want to talk again, fine, we'll talk again. But we should destroy as much of their infrastructure as possible and make it clear that negotiation is one thing, but we're not going to fool around just talking to people and letting them buy some time. So I think President Trump is right in going back. And now he says that he's getting a call about wanting to do a deal. I believe that. Because I sincerely believe that there are people in Iran in the leadership that want to cut a deal because they know that this is a dead end. The situation they're in right now is a dead end. But, there are still, as they like to say, rogue elements within the regime that just want to pick a fight with the United States because that's important for them, I guess. So it's a difficult situation, but I'm giving President Trump a lot of credit here for defending our interest in that region. Well, President Trump also had some things to say about NATO. And I, for one, have been very frustrated with NATO for quite some time because NATO really has not been doing their, as the Democrats like to say, paying their fair share. And what that means is they have to contribute a certain percentage of their GDP to military expenditures. A lot of them have not been doing it. In fact, most of them have not done it. And you have some countries like Spain who haven't even paid anything. Well, you cannot expect the American taxpayer to continue defending you, not just the American taxpayer, but the American soldier, the parents of these soldiers, to continue supporting you if you're not even willing to pay whatever contribution you're supposed to make. And it's not that big, 2%, 5%, whatever. That's not a big amount. But what's happened in many of these countries is that they've gotten used to being defended for free or not, let's say, not having to pay a lot. They've gotten used to that because the United States is there. And I think President Trump is right in saying, no, we're not going to be there if you don't pay. And I think that's 100% correct because otherwise, these countries are just, they're not defending themselves and they need to take the threat just as seriously. I mean, look at Iran. Iran is a bigger threat to European cities than it is the United States. Russia is a bigger threat to them than it is to us. So they need to take it seriously. They need to get in the game and start building their military resources. And if they do that, I have no problem with working with them in NATO. If they don't, well, their membership, if I could put it this way, is going to be canceled. I just don't know how else to say it than that. You cannot continue to expect the American people to defend you if you're not willing to, pay the rent or pay your share or whatever analogy you want to use. But, this is ridiculous. Some of these countries who are not willing to, they want to be members of NATO for the protection, but then they don't want to be contributing to NATO. Well, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. Well, a little on this day in history here. If you're a baby boomer, you remember that song, Blowing in the Wind. It was a Bob Dylan song. Well, Bob Dylan recorded that song on this day in 1962. It was on his first album. But it wasn't, nobody really paid much attention to it when Dylan recorded it. It became a big hit the next year in the summer of 63 when Peter, Paul, and Mary recorded that song, Blowing in the Wind, and it became a huge hit for them. And that song probably, or that hit by Peter, Paul, and Mary kind of introduced the country to the songwriting skills of Bob Dylan, who went on to write other songs, Mr. Tambourine Man, Like a Rolling Stone, stuff like that that was very popular back then. But Blowing in the Wind, he recorded on this day in 1962. So that's what, 64 years ago? Wow. 64 years ago, Blowing in the Wind was recorded. That's a long time. That's what, half a century plus 12? Wow, or 14? That's a long time. Remember that song by the Beatles, When I'm 64? Well, yeah, 64 is a long time, I guess. But anyway, Blowing with the Wind on this day in 1962. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later.